Good evening. This is CTV News for Monday, February 6th. I'm Denise Douglas.
And I'm Patricia Vallone. Glad to have you with us tonight. Well, Senator Ben Cardin is among those speaking out against President Trump's executive order banning travel from 7 majority Muslim nations. Cardin was joined by international nonprofit agencies at Catholic Relief Headquarters in Baltimore. The event comes in the wake of a judge imposing a temporary injunction. Cardin told the group he would, quote, continue to work to undo this unethical and ineffective example of misguided executive overreach and any future actions like it, unquote. Now, the Justice Department, which is defending the president's order, has been asked to respond to the injunction by 6 this evening.
The Maryland Retailers Association is saying no to the border tax that is supported by some Republicans in Congress and the Trump administration. House Speaker Paul Ryan is pledging to pass a reform that would cut the corporate tax from 35% to 20%, while more heavily taxing imports. Trump has also said he wants to tax companies that move facilities and jobs overseas. Kaylee Locklear told president of the Maryland Retailers Association said the moves would have a harmful ripple effect.
The border tax proposal that has been proposed could be devastating to retailers, and not just to retailers, to consumers, because we will pass that tax on to them. The National Retail Federation estimates that each household will see another $1,700 in charges from this tax.
Wow, and what does that do for businesses on the business side in addition to consumers suffering?
So obviously all of us care about supporting American-made products and industry. However, what's being missed here is that the majority of products that we're importing in, there's a reason. It's because they're either not made in the United States or they're in such low quantities that we cannot provide to consumers the amount of demand for that product. So it is absolutely important that we're able to import products in, and consumers and businesses are not going to get hit on the back end with that new tax.
Locklear Toll says she expects more companies to join their coalition opposing the border tax in the coming days. With congressional phone lines overloaded and district offices mobbed across the nation, Trump opponents are doing more than just rallying outside.
That's right. Political actions are also taking place indoors at congressional offices. And joining us now to discuss an upcoming event is Hyattsville activist Michelle Pintor. And welcome here to the program.
Thank you.
Well, first off, you're having this event called Resist Trump Tuesdays. Explain how that's working.
Okay. MoveOn.org, Working Families Party, and Indivisible Guide have gotten together to create a nationwide event, and they want it through every state, and in the hopes to local activists to go to each senator's office. That is these initial first 100 days to go to the senator's office and first oppose the cabinet nominations, and then these other items such as the executive orders and the Supreme Court nominee, to voice our opposition to our senators in person as being the most effective way.
Now, we've seen the Women's March on Washington, now this. Where does this fall sort of in the scheme of things? Do you want this to continue? Do you want to build on this? What are you expecting?
Yes, so our group originated with women who wanted to join in the march. So they were horrified by the election outcomes, and then we've come together, and varied backgrounds, varied interests, some environment, some women's rights, and so we've come together to do the Women's March and be unified in the Hyattsville area for that. But then also, next actions, it can't just be a one-day event, and that is why we're carrying forward. This is only one part of our group's efforts, the Resist Trump Tuesdays, and I became the facilitator. I'm just an average citizen, but I realized after going one, and I was not the host, I needed to facilitate this. Our group needed to facilitate Marylanders being able to go to their senator's office and have their voice heard.
So this is, you're going to these Maryland lawmakers who seem to be in accord with resisting many of the initiatives coming from the president's office. Why are you targeting them?
Well, we're Marylanders, so in our case, it's kind of an interesting thing. So both of our senators are Democrats. Our representatives in this area, Steny Hoyer, Anthony Brown, both Democrats. So they're mostly doing what we say. And so we're there to support them, because it can be much easier to just go along to get along, but to encourage them to be even bolder, to say, no, you can't do these horrifying executive actions. No, we are gonna push back. We are gonna have a spine.
Are there any particular things that have happened that you would like to see done differently?
Chris Van Hollen did confirm a couple of the nominees, and maybe they were the least worst. So we're not looking backwards, we are looking forwards, but he has introduced legislation to protect immigrants. I forget but he's co-sponsored that. So I think that's in direct response, not just to his feelings, but to the public outcry. And so we have to keep continuing to push.
Do you think the president and others who you're sort of targeting are listening? Do you think they're getting whatever the message is that you want to send?
I do think they are. I think it has them running because the phones are overwhelmed. So, and Republican offices, the staff is saying, hey, we're really unhappy because people keep calling and they lock the doors and other things. We're lucky. Ours are receptive. We don't live in a Republican area where they are closing the door on us, because then this would be a different conversation.
Just briefly, tell us what the event is tomorrow. We're running out of time.
Okay, sorry. Noon tomorrow at Senator Van Hollen's D.C. office, going as a group to peacefully speak with his office again. They've been very receptive to us so far. We are very grateful to have, again, once our voice heard, to resist the Trump cabinet, to resist these executive orders and the Supreme Court nominee.
All right, Ms. Pintor, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Right. Thanks for your time. Moving on, a plane makes an emergency landing in Fort Washington this afternoon. The pilot was found in a wooded area near Indian Head Highway and Old Fort Road. Fire officials say the pilot was transported via helicopter to a nearby trauma center. No word yet on the cause of that incident. You are watching CTV News. I'm Denise Douglas.
And I'm Patricia Ballone.